It was a gray, rainy afternoon and the city felt heavier than usual. The streets were slick with water, and puddles reflected the dim lights of street lamps, making the world seem both wet and lonely. Tyrone walked slowly, pulling his jacket tighter around him, trying to keep warm. He had just finished a long shift at the hardware store, his shoes squelching with each step as water seeped in from the rain. All he wanted was to get home, change into dry clothes, and have a hot meal. As he rounded the corner, he noticed movement ahead. An elderly woman struggled to manage her umbrella, which kept flipping in the strong gusts of wind. She was trying to hold on to several shopping bags at the same time, but the weight was too much for her small frame. One bag ripped at the bottom and groceries started spilling onto the wet pavement. Tyrone's first instinct was to look away. He was tired, soaked, and worried about himself, but something inside him made him step closer. Without thinking twice, he hurried over. "Ma'am, can I help you with these?" he asked politely, kneeling to pick up the scattered items. The woman looked at him with surprise, her eyes wary. "Oh, I don't want to trouble you," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly from the cold. Tyrone shook his head. "It's no trouble at all. Let me help you. It's raining pretty hard." She hesitated for a moment, looking at him carefully. Something about his calm, friendly manner made her trust him, even though she didn't know him. Slowly, she handed him one of the heavier bags. He lifted it easily, and her relief was obvious. Tyrone smiled, trying to make the situation lighter. "You know, umbrellas are supposed to protect us from rain, not give us trouble," he said, glancing at hers, which had completely flipped inside out. The woman laughed, a small, genuine laugh that sounded like music in the otherwise dreary afternoon. Together, they started walking toward her apartment building, Tyrone carrying most of the bags while she struggled to hold on to the broken umbrella. He made small talk along the way, asking her about the weather, her day, and whether she had gone shopping for anything special. She told him about buying vegetables for her favorite stew recipe, and he nodded, listening carefully. When they reached the entrance of her building, Tyrone put the bags down and helped her manage the door. She thanked him several times, her voice warm with gratitude. Tyrone waved it off. "It's nothing," he said with a shrug. "I'm glad I could help." He didn't know it at the time, but this small act, this simple choice to stop and help someone, was about to change his life. Tyrone walked away, wet shoes squelching, feeling the familiar exhaustion settle back in. He didn't think about how this encounter might lead to something bigger. He didn't imagine that the woman he helped would soon decide to trust him with a chance that could transform his future. For now, he was just a man walking home in the rain, trying to keep his spirits up despite the cold. At home, Tyrone kicked off his wet shoes and hung his jacket on the rack. The apartment was small but cozy, with the faint smell of cooking drifting from the kitchen. His mother was already there, preparing dinner, humming softly to herself. She looked up as he entered. "You're soaked again," she said with a mix of concern and amusement. "You really need better shoes for this weather." Tyrone shrugged, peeling off his wet shirt and tossing it into the laundry basket. "I helped an old lady with her groceries," he said casually. "Umbrella broke in the wind." His mother paused. "That's very kind of you. Not everyone would do that." He smiled faintly, not wanting to make a big deal of it. It's just what anyone would do, right? But inside, Tyrone felt a small warmth that had nothing to do with the heater. Helping someone, even for a few minutes, made the day feel less heavy. It reminded him that even when life felt hard, he could still make a difference in someone else's day. The rest of the evening passed quietly. Tyrone finished his meal, washed the dishes, and sat by the window watching the rain tap against the glass. He thought about work, about bills piling up, and about how hard it was to make ends meet. Life had been a constant struggle lately. Long hours at the store, little pay, and very few opportunities to move forward. He often wondered if he would ever catch a break, or if life would just keep throwing obstacles in his path. Yet, even with all the worries pressing down on him, the memory of helping the elderly woman stayed in his mind. He remembered her smile, the way her hands shook slightly when she held the bags, and the relief in her eyes when he carried them for her. It was a small thing, but it felt meaningful. For the first time in a while, he felt proud. Not for himself, but for the way he treated someone else. The next morning, Tyrone woke up early, as usual, and prepared for another long day at work. He dressed quickly, grabbed a quick breakfast, and headed out into the damp streets. The rain had stopped, leaving behind a fresh, clean smell in the air. The streets were quieter than usual, and Tyrone noticed the way puddles reflected the rising sun, creating little pockets of light. He thought about yesterday, about the woman he helped, and a small smile crossed his face. At the store, the day was busy. Customers came and went, asking questions, picking up items, and making small talk. Tyrone moved from counter to counter, helping wherever he was needed. It was exhausting, but he didn't complain. He had learned over the years that complaining didn't solve anything. It only made days feel longer. During a brief break, Tyrone stepped outside for some air. He leaned against the wall, looking at the street, thinking about life and the little choices people made. He thought about how one small decision, like stopping to help someone, could create ripples that no one could predict. He didn't know it yet, but that thought would soon become reality in a way he never expected. Meanwhile, the elderly woman, Mrs. Harper, was also thinking about the encounter. She had spent the rest of her day drying off her groceries and putting them away, but Tyrone's kindness lingered in her mind. She was a woman who had seen a lot in life, had built her own business from the ground up, and had always believed that character was more important than wealth or status. Seeing a young man act with genuine care and patience reminded her of the values she cherished most. That evening, she made a quiet decision. She wanted to meet him again, not to thank him superficially, but to truly see the kind of person he was. She believed that people like Tyrone deserved opportunities, and sometimes, fate had a way of connecting those who acted selflessly with those who could help them grow. Back at the store, Tyrone finished his shift and walked home, still unaware that his simple act of kindness in the rain would soon open doors he had only dreamed of. As he reached his apartment, he felt the familiar fatigue, but also a strange sense of anticipation, a feeling he couldn't quite explain. Something was about to change, though he didn't know what. And so a day that began with rain and exhaustion ended with hope, quietly stirring in both their hearts. Neither Tyrone nor Mrs. Harper knew how intertwined their paths would soon become, but both were about to learn that small acts of kindness could lead to life-changing moments. The morning sun broke through the clouds, casting a soft golden light over the city streets. Tyrone woke up early, as he did most days, feeling the same mix of tiredness and determination. He had returned to his usual routine, but the memory of yesterday's rain and the elderly woman he helped lingered in his mind. He didn't know why, but he felt as though that moment meant more than it seemed. There was something about the way she had smiled, the way she had looked relieved and grateful, that stayed with him throughout the day. At the hardware store, work felt heavier than usual. The shop was crowded, with customers moving between aisles, asking questions and picking out items. Tyrone moved from counter to counter, helping wherever he was needed. He was tired, yet there was a quiet satisfaction in knowing he was useful, that his efforts mattered in some small way. Still, the bills on his kitchen table and the endless responsibilities at home weighed heavily on him. He often wondered if things would ever get easier. Some days felt like an endless cycle of work and struggle. He had tried applying for other jobs, looking for better opportunities, but rejections were constant, and nothing seemed to change. Life had a way of wearing him down, making even small challenges feel enormous. Yet despite all this, he held on to a belief that hard work, patience, and kindness would eventually pay off. Meanwhile, Mrs. Harper sat in her apartment thinking about Tyrone. She had not forgotten his actions, and she found herself telling friends and family about the young man who had helped her in the rain. She had seen many people in her lifetime, people who were polite but distant, or people who acted out of obligation rather than genuine care. Tyrone had been different. His kindness had been natural, effortless, and without expectation. She had always believed that true character revealed itself in small acts. Generosity was not measured by wealth or status, but by the willingness to help without needing anything in return. Tyrone had shown her that, and she felt compelled to repay him in some way. But she didn't want to do it with a simple thank you or a gift. She wanted to give him an opportunity that could truly change his life, a chance to show what he was capable of. After thinking for some time, Mrs. Harper decided to visit the hardware store. She wanted to find Tyrone and speak with him personally. She dressed carefully, putting on a simple but elegant outfit, and set out. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening and clean. Her pace was calm but deliberate, each step carrying the weight of her decision. She wasn't sure exactly what she would say or how he would react, but she knew she had to try. At the store, Tyrone was assisting a customer when Mrs. Harper walked in. She asked quietly for the young man who had helped her the day before. The clerk nodded and pointed toward the counter. When Tyrone saw her, he immediately remembered the rain, the heavy bags, and the way she had struggled with her umbrella. A polite smile spread across his face. "Good morning, ma'am," he said, his tone friendly but cautious. Mrs. Harper returned the smile, though there was a spark of determination in her eyes. "Good morning," she said. "I wanted to thank you again for helping me yesterday." "It was very kind of you," Tyrone waved it off. "It's nothing, really. I just saw someone who needed help." She shook her head gently. "No, it was more than that. I saw how you acted. You didn't just help. You were patient, respectful, and considerate. That matters more than you know." Tyrone felt a mix of surprise and embarrassment. He wasn't used to being praised, especially not for something he had considered a simple act. He looked down briefly, scratching the back of his neck. Thank you. That's very kind of you to say." Mrs. Harper paused for a moment, studying him carefully. "I have a proposition for you," she said finally. Tyrone's eyes widened slightly. He hadn't expected this. I'm not sure I understand," he admitted. She smiled warmly. "I own a small chain of businesses in the city. I've been looking for someone responsible, honest, and hardworking to manage a new branch I plan to open. After seeing you yesterday, I believe you have the qualities I'm looking for. I want to offer you the position." Tyrone felt his heart skip a beat. The thought of a stable, better-paying job seemed almost too good to be true. He had spent so long struggling just to get by that this kind of opportunity felt like a dream. I don't know what to say," he stammered. Mrs. Harper shook her head. "Say yes," she said gently. "I don't want to waste time with doubts. I've already seen the kind of person you are. Now I want to see what you can do in a professional setting. I will mentor you personally, and I believe you can succeed." Tyrone's mind raced. He thought about the long hours he had spent at the hardware store, the money worries, and the feeling that life had boxed him into a corner. Yet here was someone offering him a chance to prove himself, to grow, and to change his life completely. It was both thrilling and terrifying. I would be honored," he said finally, his voice steadying. "I promise I will give it my best." Mrs. Harper smiled, pleased. "That's all I ask. You will start next week. In the meantime, I'll send over some documents and information about the responsibilities. But more than anything, I want you to approach this with the same honesty and dedication you showed yesterday." For the rest of the day, Tyrone could hardly focus. His mind kept returning to the conversation, replaying each word. It was hard to believe that one act of kindness could lead to such a life-changing opportunity. He thought about his family, imagining how proud his mother would be and how much this could relieve the financial pressure that weighed on him daily. At home, he shared the news with his mother. She listened intently, her eyes wide with surprise and joy. "Tyrone, that's incredible. You deserve this. I've always known your kindness and hard work would open doors for you." He smiled, feeling a mix of pride and nervous anticipation. "I hope I can live up to it," he said quietly. "You will," she said firmly. "I believe in you." That evening, Tyrone sat by his window watching the city lights shimmer on the wet streets below. He thought about Mrs. Harper, the way she had noticed him, and the opportunity she had offered. He realized that life sometimes gave second chances, but they often came in unexpected ways. A simple act like helping someone in need could ripple into something much larger than one could ever imagine. Meanwhile, Mrs. Harper reflected on the encounter as well. She had spent years building her business, learning that talent and dedication could be hard to recognize on paper. Seeing Tyrone act with integrity had reminded her why she loved giving others a chance, and she felt confident that he would make a difference in her business. The city around them continued its rhythm, people going about their days, unaware of the connection forming between two lives that would soon change forever. And for Tyrone, a seed of hope had been planted, a hope that through honesty, hard work, and kindness, he could rise above his struggles and step into a brighter future. The week before he officially started was filled with anticipation. Tyrone spent time organizing himself, thinking about how he would approach this new responsibility, and preparing mentally for the changes ahead. He talked to friends and family, though cautiously, not wanting to get their hopes up too high, yet feeling proud of the chance that had come to him. He knew the journey ahead would not be easy. Managing a branch of a business came with challenges he had never faced before. But the promise of mentorship from Mrs. Harper, coupled with his determination to prove himself, gave him courage. He remembered the rainy day, the groceries, and the trust Mrs. Harper had shown in him without asking for anything in return. That memory became a quiet motivation, a reminder that small acts could lead to big outcomes. And so, the days passed, each bringing him closer to a new chapter of his life. Tyrone remained grounded, aware that opportunities were rare and that he needed to give his best effort. The thought of helping others just as he had helped Mrs. Harper stayed with him. He realized that kindness wasn't just about moments in the rain. It was about living a life that reflected honesty, respect, and care for others. By the end of the week, Tyrone felt ready. He had mentally prepared himself for the responsibilities ahead and for the chance to grow in ways he had never imagined. He didn't yet know all the challenges that awaited, but he knew he was taking the first step toward a future shaped not just by circumstances, but by choices, effort, and the kindness he carried in his heart. And so, the story moved forward. One act of generosity turning into an opportunity, and one young man standing on the edge of a chance that could transform everything he had worked for. The rain that had fallen days ago was now a memory, replaced by the sunlight of new beginnings, and the knowledge that life sometimes rewards those who act with integrity and compassion. The day Tyrone officially started his new role arrived, and he felt a mix of excitement, nervousness, and determination. He woke up early, even earlier than usual, wanting to prepare himself mentally for everything that lay ahead. He dressed neatly, making sure his clothes were clean and pressed. For the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of pride, not just in his appearance, but in the fact that he had a chance to step into a position that could change his life. The morning air was crisp, with the faint smell of rain lingering from a passing shower the night before. Tyrone walked to the location of the new branch, his mind filled with questions. What would his responsibilities be? How would the employees react to him? Would he be able to manage the tasks successfully? Despite his doubts, he held on to one thought. He had been given this opportunity because someone saw value in him, and he could not let that go to waste. Mrs. Harper was already at the branch when he arrived, waiting with her usual composed and encouraging demeanor. She greeted him warmly. "Good morning, Tyrone. I'm glad you're here," she said, her voice calm yet filled with energy. Tyrone returned the greeting with a polite smile, feeling a mix of awe and respect. She had built this business from the ground up, and now she was entrusting him with part of her vision. She began the day with a tour of the branch, explaining the layout, the storage system, and the workflow. Every corner had a purpose, and she emphasized attention to detail, telling Tyrone that understanding the small things often led to greater success. Tyrone listened carefully, absorbing every word. He asked questions when he didn't understand, and Mrs. Harper answered patiently, encouraging him to take notes and observe closely. After the tour, she introduced him to the staff. There were a few employees already working, some experienced and some new. They looked at him curiously, aware that a new manager had arrived. Tyrone greeted them respectfully, making an effort to remember their names and roles. He realized that his first impression mattered, not just to Mrs. Harper, but to the team he would lead. The day quickly became busy. Customers arrived steadily, some seeking advice, others looking for specific items. Tyrone found himself juggling tasks he had never done before, ordering stock, helping customers, managing schedules, and ensuring the store remained organized. At first, it was overwhelming. Mistakes were inevitable, and he felt the pressure of responsibility weighing heavily on his shoulders. But Mrs. Harper was always nearby, offering guidance without judgment. When Tyrone made a mistake, she calmly explained what went wrong and how to correct it. Her mentorship was patient but firm, showing him that success required both effort and learning from errors. Tyrone appreciated her approach. It made him feel supported while still pushing him to do his best. By midday, Tyrone had already learned several new skills. He discovered how to track inventory efficiently, how to approach a frustrated customer calmly, and how to motivate employees who seemed disengaged. Each small success built his confidence, and he began to feel that he truly belonged in this role. For the first time, he saw that his past struggles were not a limitation but a preparation. Every long hour at the hardware store, every challenge he had faced, had helped him develop resilience and patience. During a quiet moment in the afternoon, Tyrone and Mrs. Harper stepped into her office for a short discussion. She asked him about his experience so far and how he felt managing the branch. Tyrone admitted that it was challenging, but he was learning quickly and felt motivated to do even better. Mrs. Harper nodded approvingly. "You're doing well, Tyrone. It's normal to feel overwhelmed at first," she said. "But remember, leadership is not just about tasks. It's about people. Treat your team with respect, listen to them, and show patience. That's how you earn loyalty and trust." Tyrone listened intently. He thought about his interactions with the employees, realizing that understanding them, noticing their strengths, and addressing their concerns could make a big difference. He had always believed in helping people, but this was a new level, guiding others while also carrying responsibility for the business. The day passed quickly, filled with learning, challenges, and small victories. Tyrone discovered that even simple tasks like arranging shelves or tracking orders required careful attention and strategy. Each decision had an impact, and he felt the weight of accountability. Yet, alongside the stress, there was a growing sense of accomplishment. He could see the results of his work immediately. The store looked organized, employees seemed motivated, and customers were satisfied. By evening, Tyrone felt exhausted but satisfied. He had worked harder than he had in weeks, but this time the effort felt meaningful. He knew that the path ahead would not always be easy, but for the first time, he felt like he was moving toward something significant, not just getting by day to day. Mrs. Harper called him into her office once more before he left. She handed him a small notebook. "Use this to keep track of your progress, ideas, and challenges," she said. "Write down everything you learn. Reflection is as important as action. It will help you grow not only as a manager but as a person." Tyrone accepted the notebook with gratitude. "Thank you, ma'am. I promise I'll do my best." "I know you will," she replied with a smile. "Remember, I believed in you before anyone else did. Now it's time for you to believe in yourself." That night, Tyrone returned home physically tired but mentally energized. He reflected on his first day, thinking about the lessons he had learned and the people he had met. For the first time in a long while, he felt a spark of hope, not just for the job but for the possibilities it represented. He realized that hard work, patience, and kindness could open doors he had never imagined. As he prepared for bed, he thought about Mrs. Harper's words. Leadership, responsibility, and trust were more than just concepts. They were actions, decisions, and choices made every day. Tyrone understood that this opportunity was not just about managing a store. It was about growing, learning, and shaping a future he could be proud of. The next few days followed a similar rhythm. Each day brought new challenges, whether it was solving a customer complaint, reorganizing stock, or managing a team member who struggled with a task. Tyrone approached each situation carefully, remembering the guidance Mrs. Harper had given him. With every decision, he gained confidence. He started noticing patterns, finding efficient ways to handle tasks, and learning how to motivate his team. His interactions with the employees began to shift. They respected him not only for his knowledge but also for the way he listened and treated them with fairness. Tyrone understood that people responded to genuine care and consistency, and he made it a point to recognize their efforts and encourage them when things got difficult. Slowly, the branch started to run more smoothly, and he felt proud of what they were accomplishing together. One evening, after closing the store, Tyrone walked home feeling tired but fulfilled. The city was quieter now, with a soft glow from streetlights reflecting on damp streets. He thought about how much had changed in such a short time. A week ago, he had been a man struggling to make ends meet, unsure of his future. Now he was managing a branch, learning skills he never imagined he could acquire, and building relationships that would last. As he lay in bed that night, Tyrone couldn't help but reflect on the small act that had started it all. Helping Mrs. Harper with her groceries in the rain had seemed insignificant at the time. Yet it had opened a door to opportunity, growth, and a chance to create a better life. He realized that life had a way of rewarding kindness, sometimes in unexpected ways, and he felt determined to continue living in a way that reflected integrity and compassion. In the days that followed, Tyrone's confidence grew even more. He started suggesting ideas for improving store operations, handling difficult situations with more ease, and building stronger relationships with both employees and customers. Mrs. Harper noticed his progress and expressed her satisfaction. She encouraged him to continue learning, reminding him that the journey had just begun. Through it all, Tyrone never forgot the lesson of that rainy day. He understood that success was not just about personal gain, but about helping others, showing empathy, and acting with honesty. He carried these values into every decision he made, building a branch that was not only profitable, but also a place where people felt respected and valued. By the end of the month, the branch had become more organized and efficient. Customers noticed the improvements and employees felt motivated and appreciated. Tyrone had grown into his role, not just as a manager, but as a leader who inspired others. He realized that the opportunity he had been given was more than a job. It was a chance to shape his future and make a meaningful impact on those around him. And through it all, one thing remained clear: the simplest acts of kindness, like helping someone with groceries in the rain, could ripple through life in ways no one could predict. Tyrone had experienced that firsthand, and he carried the lesson forward, determined to continue living with the same integrity, patience, and care that had brought him this far. Tyrone had been managing the branch for a few months now, and the rhythm of the store had become more familiar, though no 2 days were ever exactly the same. Each morning he arrived with a quiet determination, ready to face whatever challenges the day might bring. He still remembered the nervous excitement of his first day, but now he approached his responsibilities with confidence and calm. He had learned that success wasn't about rushing or forcing things. It was about patience, observation, and understanding people. The employees had grown comfortable with him as a manager. Tyrone had made an effort from the beginning to listen to them, to understand their strengths and struggles, and to treat everyone with fairness. He noticed when someone was having a difficult day and offered encouragement or practical help. Slowly, a sense of trust and camaraderie developed. People respected him not just because of his position, but because he genuinely cared. One rainy afternoon, similar to the day he had first helped Mrs. Harper, Tyrone was reviewing stock in the back room when a new employee, Javier, approached him. Javier looked frustrated, holding a list of items that had been misplaced. Tyrone took a deep breath and calmly asked, "What happened?" Javier explained the problem, pointing to several boxes that were out of order. Instead of getting angry or frustrated, Tyrone guided him step by step, showing him an easier system for organizing the inventory. "Mistakes happen," he said. "What matters is how we fix them and learn for the future." Javier nodded, relieved. "Thanks, Tyrone. I didn't know how to handle it." "You'll get better with practice," Tyrone reassured him, "and I'm here to help whenever you need it." Moments like these reminded Tyrone of why Mrs. Harper had trusted him with this opportunity. Leadership was not about authority. It was about patience, understanding, and helping others grow. He thought back to the day he had carried her groceries in the rain and realized that kindness had always been a part of who he was. It was just now taking a new form in his work. As the days passed, Tyrone began noticing more subtle changes in the store. Customers started returning regularly, mentioning how welcoming the staff was and how organized everything had become. Some even complimented the store's atmosphere, noting that it felt different from other branches they had visited. Tyrone felt a quiet satisfaction each time he heard these comments. They were small victories, but they reminded him that his efforts were making a real difference. One evening, after a particularly busy day, Mrs. Harper asked to speak with him privately in her office. Tyrone followed, wondering what she might want to discuss. "I've been observing your progress, Tyrone," she began. "You've done very well managing the branch. The staff respects you, customers are happy, and the operations are improving steadily. But I want you to understand something important. This is just the beginning." Tyrone nodded, listening carefully. "Leadership is not a destination," she continued. "It's a journey. There will always be challenges, people who test your patience, and situations that seem impossible. But how you respond will define you. You've shown patience, honesty, and dedication so far, and that gives me confidence in your potential." Tyrone felt a mixture of pride and determination. Her words reminded him that success was ongoing. It wasn't a single accomplishment, but a continuous effort to improve and grow. He realized that while he had come far, there was still much to learn, and he was eager to embrace every lesson. The following week brought new challenges. A shipment of goods arrived damaged, and Tyrone had to quickly organize replacements, contact suppliers, and reassure customers who had been waiting for the items. It was a stressful situation, but he remained composed. delegating tasks to employees based on their strengths and encouraging them along the way. By the end of the day, the problem had been resolved, and the customers were satisfied. Tyrone felt exhausted but proud. He realized that moments of difficulty were opportunities to grow, to test his skills, and to build the trust of both his team and the customers. Outside of work, Tyrone's life was changing as well. The stable income allowed him to move into a slightly larger apartment, one with more space for himself and his mother. He could now afford to buy groceries without worrying constantly about stretching every dollar, and he even managed to save a little each month. These small improvements in his life gave him a sense of security he hadn't felt in years. One weekend, he visited Mrs. Harper's home to discuss plans for expanding the branch further. She greeted him warmly, offering tea and snacks, and they spent several hours reviewing schedules, budgets, and strategies. During their conversation, she shared stories of her own struggles building the business from scratch, the mistakes she had made, and the lessons she had learned. Tyrone listened intently, realizing how much knowledge and experience she was willing to share. "You see, Tyrone," she said, "success is built on small, consistent efforts. Every choice you make matters, and how you treat people often matters more than any profit or statistic. Remember that and you'll go far." Her words resonated deeply with Tyrone. He understood now that the kindness he had shown her in the rain was connected to the work he was doing every day. Both were acts of care, one personal, one professional, and both required thoughtfulness, integrity, and commitment. In the weeks that followed, Tyrone continued to grow into his role. He implemented small changes that improved efficiency, encouraged open communication among employees, and made sure customers felt welcomed and valued. The branch became a place where people enjoyed working and shopping, a noticeable difference from how it had been when he first arrived. One afternoon, a customer approached Tyrone with a compliment. "I've been coming here for years, and this is the first time I've felt the staff really cares," she said. "It makes a big difference." Tyrone smiled, feeling a quiet sense of fulfillment. "Thank you," he replied. "We try our best to make everyone feel welcome." These small moments reminded him why he worked so hard, why he stayed patient, and why he approached every challenge with care. It wasn't just about money or position. It was about creating a positive environment and making a meaningful impact on the people around him. By the end of the month, the branch had not only improved operationally, but had also developed a strong sense of community. Employees felt valued, customers were satisfied, and Tyrone felt proud of the role he played in shaping this environment. He had grown into a leader, not by demanding respect, but by earning it through consistent effort, kindness, and understanding. One evening, as he closed the store, Tyrone reflected on his journey. It was hard to believe how much had changed in just a few months. He had gone from a man struggling to make ends meet to someone responsible for a thriving branch of a business. Yet he remained humble, knowing that every achievement was built on small choices, patience, and the trust others had placed in him. He thought about Mrs. Harper, the rain, and the groceries. That single act of helping her had led to an opportunity he could never have imagined. He realized that life had a way of rewarding those who acted with integrity and kindness, often in ways that were not immediately visible. As he walked home, Tyrone felt a sense of gratitude. He was grateful for the chance Mrs. Harper had given him, for the lessons he had learned, and for the people who had supported him along the way. But most of all, he was grateful for the simple belief that doing good, even in small ways, could change the course of a life. The city around him was quiet now, the soft glow of streetlights reflecting on wet streets. Tyrone's mind wandered to the future, plans for further improvements, new strategies, and ways to help his employees grow. He understood that the journey was ongoing, and that leadership, like kindness, required constant effort and attention. And as he looked up at the night sky, he thought about the ripple effects of small acts. One day of helping a stranger in the rain had led to mentorship, opportunity, and growth. It had opened doors not just for him, but for those around him, showing that life had a way of connecting moments and actions in ways that were often unexpected, but deeply meaningful. For Tyrone, the story was far from over. Challenges would come, difficult decisions would have to be made, and hard work would remain a part of every day. But he now faced the future with confidence. knowing that integrity, patience, and kindness could guide him through any storm. He had learned that life rewarded those who acted with care, and he was determined to continue living in a way that honored that lesson every single day. Months had passed since Tyrone had first stepped into the branch under Mrs. Harper's guidance, and life had transformed in ways he had never imagined. The early days of nervous anticipation, mistakes, and learning curves were now replaced with confidence, routine, and a sense of pride in his work. Tyrone had grown not just as a manager but as a person. He had discovered strengths he didn't know he possessed, learned patience in unexpected ways, and realized that true leadership was about caring for others as much as it was about business. One morning, as Tyrone arrived at the branch, he noticed the employees moving efficiently through their tasks. Each person seemed engaged and motivated, taking initiative while knowing they had his support. He felt a quiet satisfaction watching them, understanding that the environment he had helped create mattered more than profits or statistics. Leadership, he now knew, was about empowering others, making them feel seen and valued. As he walked through the aisles, greeting customers with a warm smile, Tyrone reflected on his journey. The man who had once walked home from a long shift, drenched and tired, unsure of what the future held, now felt capable of handling challenges with calm and composure. Every lesson he had learned, through mistakes, guidance from Mrs. Harper, and his own persistence, had contributed to the person he had become. A few employees approached him with questions about scheduling and inventory. Tyrone listened patiently, offering advice while encouraging them to think creatively about solutions. He realized that the more he guided and supported them, the more they grew in confidence, which in turn made the branch more successful. The cycle of trust, respect, and effort had become a natural rhythm, and he was grateful for it. Later that day, Mrs. Harper visited the branch unexpectedly. She walked through the store quietly, observing the operations, interactions, and overall atmosphere. When she finally reached Tyrone, she smiled warmly. "I've been hearing very positive feedback about this branch," she said. "From customers, employees, and even neighboring branches. It's clear that your leadership is making a real difference." Tyrone felt a surge of gratitude. "Thank you, ma'am. I couldn't have done it without your guidance and the support of the team." Mrs. Harper nodded. "I always believed in giving people opportunities based on character and potential. You showed both from the very beginning, and now you've proven yourself. But remember, this isn't just about running a business. It's about creating an environment where people feel valued, where they can grow and thrive." Her words reminded Tyrone of the rainy day when he had carried her groceries. That simple act of kindness had led to this life-changing opportunity, showing him how one moment of genuine care could ripple into countless others. He realized that life often worked in mysterious ways, rewarding those who acted with integrity, patience, and empathy. Over the next few weeks, Tyrone continued to implement small improvements in the branch. He introduced a system for better tracking stock, organized employee schedules to reduce stress, and even started a small recognition program to appreciate the efforts of the staff. Every day, he saw the positive impact of his actions, not just on the efficiency of the store but on the morale of the employees and the satisfaction of customers. One afternoon, a new challenge arose. A shipment of essential items had been delayed, and a few customers were upset about it. Tyrone took a deep breath and addressed the situation calmly. He apologized sincerely, explained the circumstances, and offered solutions to make up for the delay. The customers appreciated his honesty and effort, leaving the store with smiles instead of